Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Did you know you have the power to master your emotions, not just control them? Imagine what a different world this would be if the only emotions that remained were not compelling or true enough to cause people to act on them. This is what an enlightened society would be like. No more anger or hatred to repress, suppress, act out, or even express. If an emotion arose, it would be seen for what it is, and that would be enough to diffuse it. Many are living this way even today. There's a way to relate to emotions that isn't acting them out, repressing them, or even expressing them. The alternative is to be with the emotion and investigate it in the following way. Notice the emotion. Accept that it's there, because it is. Let it be there and let yourself experience it. Sit with the emotion with curiosity and invite it to reveal the beliefs behind it. See that those beliefs are untrue. Once you're aware of an emotion, you can work backwards from that emotion and discover the thought or thoughts that caused it. When you choose to investigate an emotion in this way, you have turned the tables on it. That emotion is no longer controlling you. You are using it to uncover the mistaken beliefs that underpin the illusion. Emotions provide very useful information. Although they don't tell you what's objectively true, they do tell you what you believe to be true, but which isn't altogether true. Emotions show you the false beliefs, generalizations, misunderstandings, stories, assumptions, judgments, and black and white thinking that uphold the ego's illusory reality and the imaginary you that exists in that reality. By investigating your emotions, you can begin to disassemble your ego's illusory reality and the false self. Then what's left is your true self and life the way it really is. Once you understand the truth about emotions, you're empowered to free yourself from the ego's lies. Every undesirable emotion points to a lie that helps uphold the ego's reality. The fastest way to dismantle the ego's reality is to examine your emotions and discover what's really going on. Here's what you can discover. Anger comes from unmet expectations. Expectations are fabricated assumptions about how life should be and what should happen. Since expectations are made up, they aren't true. They're part of the ego's imaginary reality, what it wants and hopes life to be, not the way things actually are. Sadness comes from an assumption that something shouldn't have happened. Who says it shouldn't have happened if it did? The ego declares that something shouldn't have happened because it doesn't accept the way life is, but that declaration doesn't change the way it is. Refusing to accept reality causes the suffering that's so prevalent in the egoic state of consciousness. Assumptions are examples of the ego's wishful thinking. Fear comes from a negative belief about the future. But the future doesn't exist. It's made up. So any beliefs about it are made up as well. Fear is an important part of the ego's imaginary reality because fear is so convincing. It convinces you that the ego's beliefs and perceptions are real. Fear keeps you in the imaginary reality and out of touch with the truth. Shame comes from a belief in inadequacy, and inadequacy is a concept. As useful and necessary as concepts are in communicating with others, concepts are mental constructs and not part of objective reality. There is no such thing as inadequacy. Shame, like all feelings, is something real that comes from something unreal, an imagination or a belief. This is why feelings are so convincing. Your real feelings convince you of something that's not real or not true. Regret comes from the mistaken belief that something could have been different, when things could only have been as they were. Could, in referring to the past, is always a lie. Could is a useless and untrue supposition about the past. Jealousy and envy come from the mistaken belief that someone is better or less than someone else. Better than and less than are concepts which have no value or validity in relation to human beings. They're imaginary and untrue measuring sticks. Everyone is equally cherished and precious. Hatred comes from believing the ego's judgments and negative stories about others, which are never the whole story. The ego builds a case against others by seeing only the negative and also by defining something as negative. It naturally fears and distrusts others because they're different. To the ego, being different is bad and a reason to hate them. The ego doesn't see the truth, which is love and oneness, and so it's left with its judgments, hatred, and fear. Here's an example of what you might discover when you investigate an emotion. Let's suppose you're upset about something someone said to you. They criticized you, and you feel hurt and angry. If you sit with those feelings with acceptance, curiosity, and receptivity, and make space for your intuition to reveal the truth about them, you'll discover a number of things. First of all, you can discover that you created that hurt and anger, not someone else, by believing what that person said. Otherwise, you would have no reason to feel hurt and angry. Something in your subjective reality agreed with that person's subjective reality, or the criticism would have had no effect. Other people can't actually hurt you or make you angry unless you buy into their thoughts or buy into your own thoughts. Is what the person said actually true? Maybe there's some truth to it that's worth examining. But if what that person said triggered negative emotions in you, most likely it's their ego's truth. It came from that person's subjective reality and was probably some form of judgment designed to confirm that person's subjective reality and put that person on top. This is what egos do. If you buy into another person's ego's reality, you'll probably get caught up in your own ego's reality, although it's possible to see that this is going on and not do that. If that level of investigation doesn't get you beyond the hurt and anger, then you can explore what thoughts in your own subjective reality hooked you. What do you believe about yourself that made you feel hurt and angry? Or what other beliefs do you have that made you feel hurt and angry? It could be any number of beliefs. He doesn't like me. People never like me. No one understands me. I never do anything right. He sees how inadequate I am. He shouldn't talk to me that way. How dare he think that? He is so stupid. I can't stand people like him. He's such a jerk. None of these thoughts is useful or completely true. This is what needs to be seen in investigating your thoughts. The thoughts that make you feel hurt, sad, angry, fearful, hateful, jealous, regretful, or ashamed are not the whole truth. Most are gross generalizations, exaggerations, and assumptions, and all fuel emotions you don't want to have. So why do people do this to themselves? Why do they believe their minds? They really don't have a choice until they realize what's going on, that thoughts and feelings don't tell the truth. Until you realize this great truth, you're stuck with the lies and suffering of the egoic state of consciousness. You'll see life through the lens of your ego, and you'll miss the beauty, peace, love, and bounty of the life you're given. Emotions cause the suffering that eventually motivates people to find a way out of their subjective reality and suffering. So you could say that even emotions are pointers to the truth. Sadness or unhappiness, and particularly depression, because of the degree of suffering involved, often are very effective in getting people to question more deeply. Nevertheless, emotions are not one of the ways the true self communicates with you. For instance, your true self doesn't use fearful thoughts to warn you about some future event. Emotions are there to hold the illusion in place, not to provide any useful or true information. Depression is a sign that one is deeply believing the ego's perceptions. Depression is extremely painful, and interventions are often necessary when someone has fallen that far into the darkness of negativity. To bring back a more balanced perspective, drugs are often helpful and necessary. What happens is that negative non-physical forces can and do aggravate the negativity of one's ego and cause that negativity to be so compelling that one feels powerless to do anything about it. A clearing of that negative energy is necessary, and help should be sought from healers and others capable of working with negative entities and negative thoughts. A lack of alignment with one's soul's plan is what's likely to have gotten one into trouble in the first place. When people don't allow themselves to follow their heart, they often create a life unsuited to them and one that can never make them happy. Depression is often an indicator that someone has reached a dead end and needs to make significant changes. If those changes aren't made, one becomes increasingly vulnerable to further psychic attack and manipulation by negative forces. People can go very far down the rabbit hole of negativity and be unable to pull themselves out. It's so important that you align with what makes your heart sing and your energy light up. Life is hard enough without the challenge of being out of sync with your soul's plan. Anyone can be happy and fulfilled, but you have to be willing to do what makes you happy on the deepest level. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to find happiness? Not the usual kind of happiness, but a happiness that is imperturbable and founded on love. Love is your true nature, and it's by loving that you find your way, by going after what you love, and by responding to life with love and acceptance. Thank you for being here. I am with you always.